Most people expect to find trolls in Scandinavian mythology or under bridges or your local D&D game, but on the internet, a troll is defined as someone who purposely says something inflammatory to get a rise out of a community. It's time to give the trolls a moment in the sun. They may melt, but it's the loot. Joining me from New York to help us make sense of it all, the writer whose story, The World of Web Trolling, appears in the current issue of New York Times Magazine. Matt Schwartz is here. Welcome, Matt. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Kevin?
I'm doing very well. I'm glad that you're in one piece, that you haven't fallen victim to the trolls, because typically whenever,
well, it's only been 2 days.
Oh, so the fallout hasn't been too bad. How many pizzas have been delivered to your house yet?
None.
Okay,
None.
Good. Normally when mainstream media globs onto any story involving trolls, there's always a backlash, and I'm wondering, were you familiar with that before you started this? Were you just a casual observer to trolls, or were you a victim? What inspired you to actually write this article?
I think the first time I became familiar with the new troll culture was shortly after the Megan Meyer MySpace suicide case. Lori Drew, the alleged perpetrator, her information was posted online, and then I called what was supposedly her cell phone and heard this gleeful voice yelling or sort of shrieking like, "I did it for the lulz! I did it for the lulz!" And then I Googled lulz and fell down the rabbit hole of Encyclopedia Dramatica and 4chan and wound up here today.
And now your bookmarks page could make any mother cry, essentially. You've got a collection of the darkest corners of the internet. I mean, what did you learn about this subculture? I mean, is it fair to call it the lulz subculture, and what did you learn?
I mean, it's always hard when you're lumping a bunch of people together. But yeah, I think there's this thing, the lulz, and then there's this board 4chan, and then there's a part of 4chan called B, and then some people on B made this group anonymous, and they're distinct things, but they're definitely related and adjacent, and many of the members know each other and crossover between the groups.
But it's not just this one subsection of a board or culture. I mean, there are trolls in every community and on every site on the internet, right? I mean, it seems like every place has their own subset of trolls.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Broadly defined, a troll is just someone who likes to mess with people for the sake of messing with them. One of the subjects of my story, a young man who goes by the handle Weeb, said that Zeno of Elia, Socrates, and Jesus were the original trolls. And I don't completely agree with him, but I do think there's something to that. Like, just the pleasure of messing with other folks is as old as humankind itself.
Well, who are these people behind the nicknames, Matt? Did you find out? Are they young? Are they old? Do they have a lot of money? Because I think most people imagine that the typical internet troll is some, caps lock wielding 12 to 17-year-old male. How many hit points does a troll have? What have we learned about these people?
I think they're a surprisingly diverse group. There are men, there are women, some of them are fairly wealthy. Jason Fortuny, one of my main subjects, he's in his early 30s, so you can't really, they don't fit any particular stereotype. They're not all just, young kids in a basement.
And
I'm sure some of them are.
Are they all driven, though?
I sort of wanted to meet the... Oh, go ahead.
Well, I'm just wondering what drives the trolls, because, I mean, you said a troll broadly defined as someone who just likes messing with other people, but is there something behind that? What's the motivation there?
I think there are a few different things. There's kind of all the justifications that the more intellectual trolls give afterwards, like, we're trying to save the internet, we're trying to clean up the internet. That's just, I'm not sure I buy any of that, though. I did want to give it a hearing. I think people really want to be heard, and I think if they're not heard, some people shut down and shut up, and then some people escalate. The trolls are some of the people who have escalated. I also think, once you don't have empathy for other people, and I'm someone who has very little empathy for those who have little empathy for other people, but once you cross over that line and say, what other people feel doesn't really matter to me, there is a certain pleasure that anyone might get out of manipulating the emotions of another person from a distance, which is exactly what computers allow us to do.
Right. Well, Matt, what I love is that when most people discuss this topic, or when journalists try to tackle it, it seems like they do a quick Google search. They probably use Dogpile still, and they come up with a couple terms, and they write a couple facts about it, and that's it. But you actually went and lived with some of these self-professed trolls. What did you learn there? Like, are they... And without hiding behind that nickname or a fake IP address, are they the same person in real life?
Well, Jason's unique because he's one of the few people who's willing to step up and say, this is me, this is my legal identity, you know, I'm Jason Pertini, I'm a troll. And you have to give him a certain amount of props for that. Both Jason and Weave and the other trolls I spoke to on the phone and corresponded with, they're very nice people up close. The closer you get to them, the nicer they get. I think they only have the heart to inflict whatever it is that they inflict, you know, at a distance on strangers. They don't. There are times when they may accidentally wind up harming someone they know. They like to have control over their targets, and I don't think they generally like to know them so well beforehand. So yeah, they're nice people.
All right, Matt. Well, you're a nice guy as well. I certainly hope there is no backlash. I thought it was a fantastic article, and I want to thank you so much for coming on and keeping us in the loop.
Oh, thanks. No, thanks, Kevin. It's a real pleasure. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, thank you. Right now, let's go over to Olivia, who never says anything inflammatory. It's amazing.